Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar, Sustainable and Predictable Manufacturing Operations Through Daily Management Systems. I'm Skylar Rivera, an Associate Editor at Medical Design and Outsourcing and Mass Device. Thanks for joining us today. I have a few housekeeping notes before we get started. First off, we're going to make a recording of this webinar available on demand replay on our website, medicaldesignandoutsourcing.com. Just go to our homepage, find the navigation bar, look for MedTech resources, and you'll find the link in our webinars page. While you're there, feel free to look around, take a look at previous webinars that are also available on replay, as well as open future registrations for future webinars. While you're looking at your screen right now, you should see a variety of boxes that could be moved and resized to meet your preferences. There are two boxes in particular that I'd like to note. First, there's a resource box with downloadable slides from today's presentation. The other box I want to call out is a Q&A box. Feel free to ask questions as they come during the presentation. They won't pop up or anything like that. They'll just show up on my end. And when I ask the questions, I don't share with the audience who they're from, so please don't be shy. Ask away. If you're watching this webinar on demand, you can still submit your questions and our presenter will get back to you. If you run into any technical issues during our webinar, first try refreshing your browser, then closing any other open tabs or applications. There's also a help option at the top menu that has additional troubleshooting tips. If the problem persists, please reach out to us through that Q&A box. First, I'd like to thank today's webinar sponsor, Elevaris Medical Devices, for making this webinar possible. And please allow me to introduce today's speaker, Elevaris Medical Devices Chief Engineering and Operations Officer, Sal Montes. Sal's full biography and contact information are in our speaker bio box. With that, I'll turn the presentation over to Sal.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Skylar. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm truly honored to be here with you today and appreciate you taking the time to join us. Over the next 30 minutes or so, I would like to share practical lessons learned from leading operational transformations and how daily management system can help to create sustainable and predictable performance. My goal is to leave you today with a session with ideas that can be applied in your own journey. So let's kick this off. Okay. So starting with, leading operational transformation, normally I suggest to identify on which phase your organization is in currently. Based on the way that I have been applying these concepts, I see an organization, an operations organization in these three phases: stabilization, continuous improvement, or innovation. Stabilization is when you are on control, you're predictable, but you are not efficient, right? When you move into continuous improvement is when you are ready to start squeezing all the waste out from your operation in order to get all those cost savings, right? And in specific is where Lean is coming in, when Six Sigma is coming in. And then innovation is when you don't have any more use, is when you move into new technologies, automation. So for me, it's key to understand on which phase your operation is in order to be able to set up the proper system. With the steps that I'm gonna be able to show you based on my experience, I've been able to apply them in a specific on the stabilization phase when you really need to deploy the foundation, and then you need to do an operational turnaround. So moving on to the next one. So we say that, okay, everything starts with a plan. So you have your business strategy on the top. That for most of our companies, we have a strategic plan. That can be a strat plan 3 years and a strat plan of 5 years. That plan, it goes and gets more specific into a 1 year basis that is driven by your sales inventory and operations plan. This is where we now analyze in detail what is my demand that is coming in from the customers based on my AOP, and then do I have enough capacity, yes or no, and what is the way that I'm going to be able to supply this demand to our customers. But this S&OP gets one level down going to my monthly rough cut targets. But those monthly rough cut targets, in order to make them achievable and have a daily plan, then we need to move into a weekly and daily plan by work center. And that's where, from my point of view, that's where the magic is happening. That's where the accountability gets created. And that's where the discipline needs to be reinforced. So going now directly into what is a daily management system. It's based on the way that I see it. It's just turning that strategy into a daily execution, and the daily execution with daily clarity on targets, on what I need to do on a daily basis in order to be able to contribute to my weekly and my monthly plan, and what is my daily focus, what is my priority for today based on my plan and my capacity. So as a definition, it's a framework. The daily management system is a framework, it's on a structured approach in order to manage performance, people, and more than problems every day, I consider them gaps to target. And the system is daily, so meaning that we have to contain those gap to targets in order to be able to supply whatever it is, the commitment to our customers. What is the purpose of the system? Is basically create consistency and drive accountability, right? And we are connecting that strategy into the shop floor directly. Now, why daily? Most of the case, and I can tell you that the 90% time that I'm approaching a company or a factory, and we want to start driving daily accountability, the question always come up like, why daily? I mean, it is too much, okay? Why I need to get together daily? Why do I need to review my targets daily if I already know that I'm on time or not? Well, it's not just getting together. This system is going to improve your communication, and it's going to give your team as well a forum in order to raise their hand, and we will see it. So the first bullet that you see there is data accountability. Is own it and own it every day, okay? And this means at all the levels. And this is where I do call it accountability tree. And that's where you have your operator. Your operator is accountable for the hour by hour, and is accountable for the day. Then you go to your team leader, supervisor, depending on your operational structure, and that operations supervisor or team lead is accountable for the week. Okay. Then you go to the next level, and then your manager is accountable for the month, and your next level, which is your plan director or plan manager, is accountable for the full year. If you have that level of accountability definition, then you can go into this level of detail in order to identify those kind of gaps. So then the second bullet is early problem detection or early gap detection. We will see the framework for the SQDCP boards, which is safety, quality, delivery, cost, and people. But the main idea is based on my daily target, what is the gap to target that I have in order to be able to contain? Safety, as we know, there is no tolerance for safety, so it shouldn't be a gap to target for safety. But then we go into quality. Do we have a gap to target on quality? What is my containment and my corrective action, right? And then we go through the other sections of the SQDCP board, right? Third one is faster decision making. So based on those gaps, we need to take an action with owner and with a date, okay? And then you keep doing this every day in order to have a consistent execution. So that's the reason that we need to do it daily, because we need to understand promptly what is your gap to target based on the 5 sections of the daily management system. Good. So why implementing it? Okay. From my point of view, and based on the way that I have seen this on the stabilization phase, it's creating sustainable and predictable performance. As I said, you're not still on the continuous improvement phase. So you won't be efficient, but you will control it. So meaning that everything that you are planning, you will be able to execute, but you are still not efficient. But now that you're stable, then you can go into the next phase and start applying different concepts. But initially, we need to make sure that you standardize that execution, that you're doing it the same way every day, that you are showing an increasing visibility for that performance, that you're identifying that gap to target, and you're identifying what I need to contain because I have a customer to satisfy, but what is going to be my action in order to find my corrective action, which is root cause analysis, right? Leadership alignment happen every day. It needs to be happening every day. And then you can start triggering some continuous improvement activities that you will see that you will improve. But I don't call it really continuous improvement because you're improving based on controlling. You need to start getting on control. So that's one of the main reasons that, from my point of view, is super important to have a daily operational system that is going to be giving you sustainability and predictability on the control phase. Now, in terms of the framework, going into more details on what are the key elements for your daily management system. So let's start with visual management. Visual management is basically make your performance available. So you have to understand on a daily basis where you are based on your daily plan, okay? And I always recommend that you use month to dates, because when you are just focusing on the day-to-day basis, you forget what happened 2-3 days before. And if you have a gap, still a gap that you were not able to recover, then that gap pretty much is invisible. So then if visual management, yes, your performance needs to be there on a daily basis, but at the same time on your month to date. The second element is your daily reviews. Okay, we can call it daily huddles. Okay, you can call them tier meetings. And this is a session where you are going to review, you're going to align on what needs to happen, okay, in terms of targets, and you're going to be acting. The acting piece for me is critical, because based on whatever is the challenge for the day, based on what happened the previous day, or what is the challenge or risk for the day, we have to take actions, we have to define owners, and we have to define the date that that action is going to get closed. So those three elements are key for the daily reviews. Escalation, okay, we have different levels of daily huddles, right, depending on the organizational structure. So that escalation is basically to support. It's just to give support. Something that is critical is the actions and the activities, from my point of view and based on the operational experience that I have been able to accomplish, is that your action, the accountability of the actions, they need to be pushed to the lowest level of the organization and trying to solve it at a level, because they do have the more level of detail of it. And then if they struggle because there is a challenge or a need of support, that's when you start escalating. Then you go into the problem-solving situation, that is problem-solving or gap, okay, to targets. And that's when you are able to define what is my containment action versus my corrective action. I call it containment, whatever you need to do in order to close the gap on a day-to-day basis. And I call it corrective action, okay, based on the trend of issues, on where you have to focus on in order to define the root cause analysis, corrective action, so that item is not happening again, or that issue is not happening again. And lastly is the leadership standard work. There is always the leadership piece, which is critical, because you will see on a couple of more slides, the magic doesn't happen just to implement the tools. The magic happens on the way that we behave in front of those tools, on the way that we behave when an action is being taken, the way that we behave when the action is not getting completed. Okay, so which ones are those key behaviors that as a leader we need to have? What are the key behaviors that our team leads, supervisors, etc., they need to have? In fact, is down to our lowest level into our organizational chart, so that we can get traction, okay, and we can get this continuous cycle happening every day. We were talking about the SQDCP boards, so I wanted to be more specific. Much of you guys already know what it is, but I wanted to make sure that we standardize based on the concept that I normally use. It's a visual hub for daily performance management. So normally you have your safety section, quality, delivery, cost, and people. And in people, you can have morale, or you can use culture as well. The idea is that, well, in safety, what are the key performance indicators? What are the trends on those performance indicators, right? And then at the end, what are the actions that I'm taking, okay, based on containment actions, because it's a day-to-day action, or it can be a trend, okay, and that would be a corrective issue that you will need to solve. That applies basically for all of them, and they go with safety, okay, 0 incidents normally is what we're looking for. Then you have your quality, and based on your quality metrics and your quality targets by organization, you will set them up based on the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or tier 4, right? Then you have your delivery, same thing, okay? Cost and people. So this is the I would say, the space, the hub, where the data is going to be showing in order to make it visible and in a specific just to share the performance, but what is key is to share as well where we have the gap to target on a daily basis and gap to target based on my monthly basis. Then if we move to the second piece, if you guys recall, is the daily huddles or tier meetings. And this is your heartbeat. This is what is going to give you that rhythm on a daily basis to get together. It shouldn't be for more than 15 minutes. Should be a short meeting, okay, where the frontline team members, okay, are getting together to review performance, identifying those gaps to targets, okay, and agree on what are the actions that I'm gonna take. So something that I have been using a lot is making sure that I differentiate what is my containment action to target, to gap to target, versus my corrective actions, right? At this meeting, we haven't mentioned it, is daily. So meaning that on a day-to-day basis, we should have that daily rhythm, that daily closure of actions, so then you're able to move quickly. If you're going to be analyzing, okay, a trend of defects as an example, that may be a problem-solving exercise, and I consider it, yes, as an action, but it's not going to be closed on a daily basis, right? Then when I said every 15 minutes through all the levels, and we will see all the levels, who needs to attend? It's basically depending on your organizational chart, but for tier one, normally we define it as your team members, your shop floor team members with your team lead, then your area manager with the team lead, then you have all the support teams that they go into the tier three with the production managers, and then on the top, you have your site. So normally this is the kind of structure for a production site. You have your tier one, your tier two, tier three, and tier four, right? And lastly, as I said, the main objective of this session is to identify what was my performance and discuss my performance for yesterday, okay? What was my gap to target, identify the other opportunities, and take actions. And then after that, if there is anything that I cannot solve at my level, I need to escalate to my next level. And normally the lead of this tier one, if we're talking about tier one, that's the person that attend the following meeting, okay? So he's, let's say, the entity that is going to escalate that support and is going to bring feedback to the initial level in order to close the action when it needs to be closed. Good. So the second thing that I have been, it has been really, really useful, honestly, for me. It has been the scripts, and I call it the standard work for the daily huddle, right? Because a meeting, we can define, the meeting can be 10, 15 minutes, but then is the meeting efficient? And the script has been helping me to keep the tier meeting focused. It has helped me to keep it efficient and has helped me to keep it effective. Now, the team needs to learn what are the kind of information needs to be ready in order to bring only to the tier meetings. So something that is key for me, and this is just an example, okay, we start by section, okay, yesterday, did we win or not? That needs to be known, right? Did we win or not? If we're talking about delivery, did we hit our target, yes or not? If not, then an action needs to be taken immediately, containment or corrective. And then it's important to understand, today we have a target. So are we ready to win today? If not, what is the action that I need to take, okay? And the third one is tomorrow. Do you have any risks for tomorrow? So if we start with this cycle, okay, the full organization is going to start getting proactive on a daily basis. Why? Because most of the cases, as soon as you start getting some level of maturity, you will start getting into what is the risk for tomorrow, what are the risks for tomorrow, rather than discussing what happened yesterday, which is key, right? Those issues, they need to be identified. Those actually need to be identified with a name, with an owner, and with a date, okay? That's key. And again, escalation happens, okay? And which is also super important, okay? And on most of the cases, we forgot about this, is recognition and thanking the team. There is always something that the team is doing excellent. So at the end of the session, it can be tier one, tier two, or tier three, or tier four. It's important to recognize the progress that the team has got. So then the team is getting and getting more motivated on a day-to-day basis, right? So escalation. If you guys recall, I'm gonna go back just quickly to this slide. Okay, we're going through these main elements. Okay, so escalation. Let me just see where we are. Yeah, escalation. The escalation path and the tier structure. I've been mentioning tiers, but for you guys, if someone is not familiar with tiers, we're talking about the 15 minutes meetings that they need to be set up across all the levels of organization in order to make sure that we are able to accomplish the targets for the day. So tier one, normally it's from frontline team members with a lead, right? Then you have your area and your team members. I call it is your supervisor with the team leads. And then you have your departmental managers with the participation of the production managers. So then all the information is getting communicated. And at the end, you have tier four. As an example, right now, I even have a tier five, which we have different facilities. So each GM or each plant director, they do have up to tier four, okay? And then we get together every day, and then we're able to understand what are the main gaps to target we have for the full organization, right? But the escalation path, as I was mentioning at some point, it's we have to escalate issues that we're not able to solve at our level, right? As soon as we are able to identify something that we are not able to solve at our level, that's when we are able to start escalating. But we have to escalate with purpose. That's why if we can contain it and we can solve at our level, we do it, we take an action. But if not, that's when we are able to put it to push it to the next level. Clean ownership, that applies the same at all the tiers. So we have to have the owner of the escalation item, right? A date, right? And a clear action, right? An owner. So that's key. And fast resolution, I'm talking about sense of urgency. Normally, when you are at the tier one, you're a team member working on a CNC machine, and at some point there is an escalation issue, and it has been escalated, but you don't receive any feedback. Honestly, that is just demotivated for the team. So it's important to close the loop, depending on whoever is escalating the topic. This needs to be given feedback to from where the escalation has been raised in order to close the loop and understand, yes, even if it is just acknowledgement, right? I acknowledge that it's happening, and then I'm gonna get back to you. Or in fact, it's not get back to you, my apologies, is I'm gonna give you an answer by this date. So then they are expecting and they know that someone is actively working on the topic, right? Then going into the leadership piece, okay? I have seen that the daily management system, okay, is not just to drive performance. It's at the same time is to be in front of our team members as a leaders, being able to listen to them, being able to empower them, being able to identify those gaps, okay, and what are the obstacles that they are having, and being able to support them. And but at the same time, going through this process, you're developing people because you are creating those behaviors. I will be talking about these ones, but I can share a little bit about commitment and ownership, empowerment, sense of urgency, and speak with data mindset, right? So it's developing those leaders, and I'm not talking just about team leaders, right? I've seen great success when our operators are the ones that are really driving these behaviors, right? And lead by example. At the same time, this is not just setting up and buying a couple of boards, right? A couple of markers and saying, this is the template and let's start doing it. No, as a leaders, I strongly suggest to participate on them. So this, again, I think my takeaway of this slide is, as leaders, we have to be in front of the tool. We have to be showing the behavior that we expect, okay? And we have to coach, act, and listen actively to the team, making sure that we are giving them feedback based on any escalation that they're having, empower them, to execute, and removing obstacles, okay, anytime that this happens. Now, I want to get more deeper on what I call the winning questions, okay? Because for each of the phases, right, is really interesting. What is the behavior? What are the answers that you get as soon as you start getting into, okay, so let's start reviewing the performance from yesterday, right? And you go just really quick, as I said, needs to be 15 minutes. The team needs to be sharp. Okay, and did we win yesterday? Yes or not? My actual was this many. Okay, my target was this many. My delta to target is this many. Now my recovery plan is this many. Okay, are you in control? Yes, I have a recovery plan. Okay, I'm in control. Second, what is my target for today? My target for today is this many. Okay, is there any risk for today? Yes. Okay, my crew is not complete. I'm 1% down. Okay, do you have a recovery plan for today? Yes, I already talked to my team, and my team that have a one team member that is able to help us with 1 hour of overtime or 2 hours of overtime that we can close the target in 3 days. That's my recovery plan. Okay, are we impacting the customer with that? No. Or yes, let's take an action. Is there anything that we can do? Today is late already, but can we do something tomorrow? So that's the second key win question. And the third one is start thinking proactively, right? Is there any risk for tomorrow? Same thing, right? Oh yeah, I do have 3 or 4 guys on vacations, right? That is too late to know, right? But then you are going to start finding this thing. But what this creating is that the team is going to start asking those questions by themselves before they are going into these meetings. So then you will see an improvement of the way that the team is behaving. Okay, after week by week, the team is starting to think already on these questions, right? And as you will be asking specific questions based on data, that's the same thing. They will get ready and they will get prepared. It's going to be clarity, it's going to be alignment, they will be focused, and they will be fully accountable, okay? So then when they say, yes, for today, my target is 10 widgets, right? And there is no risk, now it's he telling you, right? You are not, okay, defining a commitment on their behalf. It's the team member, the teams are defining their commitments based on the initial plan. Right? So for me, I can tell you the 3 winning questions, they have been key, okay, in applying the script. Now, where the magic happens, as I was mentioning before at some point, the magic doesn't happen just to get tools. The magic doesn't happen just to say, okay, I'm going to get a consultant, with all my respect for the consultants, right? I'm going to get a consultant, and then it's going to train everyone, okay, and it's going to do a Kaizen, and we're going to define the tools. We're going to get 5, 10, 15 boards, right? Templates are done. Training was done. Let's implement this tomorrow, right? From my point of view, that will never be successful, okay? It's requires leadership drive, requires that you are working with a team in order to implement this. They need to see that it's important, that you believe on the tools, that you lead by example on the behaviors. And we will see at some point that you speak the way that it are going to drive, the way that it's going to drive the behaviors and the work habits expected, right? So if you see the iceberg, this is not new for anyone, right? It's everything that we see, okay, is visible, which are the tools. But what we don't see are those behaviors. And it's really difficult, I understand, to have something tangible that you can use in order to have a sense if the team is behaving or not behaving as expected. So I have a suggestion, okay? I'm gonna give you a heads up now. It's my suggestion and what I have used is the language. The way that you speak and the way that your team speak creates and drives work habits. And those work habits will drive the behaviors, and those behaviors will improve your results. We will see it on one of the next slides. Good. So quickly, this is the implementation curve that I have seen too many times, honestly, and that's why, from my point of view, I strongly suggest that you don't focus just on training tools. You focus as well on the behaviors and what is the leadership role, okay, during this implementation. As you see, if you focus on the tools, you may have a really fast improvement, but as soon as this is not the flavor of the day, it's going to go back to the initial point. It's not going to stick. It's not going to stay there. And I'm sure that you have seen before how many stories you know about daily management systems trying to be in place, and then after 3 months, they are not there. Or you have the boards and they are not updated. Calls are not happening. Or how many lean trainings are happening and they are not sticking? Because it's taking time to work as a leaders, to be on the floor, to do the I do, we do, you do, right? Lead by examples in order to be really sustainable and reach sustainability, right? So shop floor behaviors, okay? We were talking about behaviors. These are the main four that I have used with success as per my experience. First one is commitment. So we're looking for ownership and commitment, and it's just basically take ownership of your actions and results. Okay, you define an action that is going to happen on Friday. Okay, no one said that it's going to be done on Friday. Okay, we have an action. We ask you the tier by when this is going to get done. You say on Friday. So Friday is July the 7th. Okay, July the 7th is when you're going to be reporting here at tier one if it is completed or not. And on this one, I have a phrase. Okay, for this when I'm explaining this to the teams, it's I take your commitment as your wedding date. What that means is no one is defining my wedding date on my behalf. It's I define my wedding date with my fiance. But if I have an issue with the music band, or if I have an issue with the catering system, or I have an issue with the flowers thing, I find something different. Okay, but my wedding date is not changing. I normally don't push out like I push deliveries on a factory. Like, okay, I have an issue, so I'm not going to get married on December 20th. I'm going to get married until January 31st. No. So that's why I always, when I'm on a meeting and say, what is it, by when this action is going to get done, I always say, hey, please remember, treat this one as a wedding day. So understand your workload, understand the sense of urgency for the business, understand everything that needs to be taken into consideration to define this date, and then put your honor here, right? So that's what I mean commitment. Empowerment is pretty much do it. Take the initiative, solve it and get it done, right? Don't wait for anyone, right? As soon as we have an action, sense of urgency. How many times you have heard on the shop floor, right? Or at the office, I send the email. My God, I mean, take the phone. We know where we are. We know the targets. We know what the customer wants. We know that it will solve an issue as a containment today, it will impact in the line tomorrow. So we need to take the phone and call, take the phone and call. That's what I mean on sense of urgency. And database mindset, okay, is just taking decisions based on data, right? It's not a few, a lot, too many, several. It's how many? It's 50, 30, okay? It's not tomorrow, it's not next week. It's Friday, July the 7th or July 8th. So that's what I mean with these four behaviors with those examples, right? Those are the ones that I normally drive with a team, right? But then what is the leadership role in order to get these behaviors set up, okay? If you see I'm gonna focus on the right side is I do, we do, you do. I can tell you that I don't get tired to use this formula every time that I'm going into the shop floor, I'm working on a setup like this, or it can be on even a logistic process or a customer service process or supply chain process is I do, okay? So we define it together, we define together the script, we define together the behaviors, we define together the language, okay? I'm gonna lead by example. So I will do it, okay? Then we do it together. That's the coaching piece. We do it together. And lastly, it's you do it together. I used to have a mentor on one of my previous companies that he used the same way, just with a different changing the phrases. He used it to use let's make people aware, let's educate, and let's make people accountable, which is pretty much the same phrase. So, and if you see on the left side, it's just creating expectations, right? But you are going to be part of it, right? And at the same time, you are not creating false expectations. Why? Because you are doing it. You did it with them. So then it's going to be super easy to step back because you show them the way. So then you can step back, and then honestly, if they don't perform, then a different action needs to be taken, right? Which is performance management, right? So set expectation is clear. That coaching daily needs to happen. You're removing the barriers because you are seeing it as a part of the implementation. But which is key? You're developing people. You're developing people to keep this learning that is happening on a daily basis, right? Good. So language, okay? I really get passionate about this topic because at the beginning, when I was applying it, okay, I got at some point some comment like, Salvador, you're crazy. Okay, changing the wording is not going to, you don't want to change anything, right? Well, it was really interesting, in fact, on my previous journey, in specific with supply chain, when we say, you know, the language that we use in an organization is going to shape your work habits. And your work habits, they shape the behaviors, and the behaviors will change the culture, and changing this rhythm and this cycle will improve the result, okay? Because if you see it, when you have these 4 behaviors, when you are not using the right tangible language, there is no way to drive a change on the culture. So instead of focusing on the never again list, okay, I would like you to see this one, right? And this is just one, it's a real example on one of my companies where I really went and we did this exercise that said, in order to honor the previous behaviors, what are the words that we are not going to use anymore? And we say, okay, so I think, I guess, I hope, maybe, hopefully, okay, I was told. These 3, 4, 5, not anymore. Why we're not using them? Because they are totally against ownership. So I think, so no one is committed to anything, I guess. So no one knows all the details, right? I hope, so maybe it happens, maybe not. So what are we going to use? I will. And believe me, when you get aligned with a full organization and say, we're not going to use this one, we're going to use I will, the mindset of the guys start changing, right? Because then in order to say I will, I need to understand all the details. I need to understand what is my commitment. I need to understand everything, you know? So then if I go to the list, right, I heard few, a lot. This is not data-driven actions, right? If I say a few, a lot, several, okay, don't tell me that. Tell me is 1,000, 15,000, 2, 3, or tell me a date, right? Tell me an hour. I told them no sense of urgency. I sent an email, no sense of urgency. I will try, no commitment. So this is, for me, has been key, I can tell you, is having this message and this alignment on how we're going to be speaking on a daily basis. Then you start seeing something tangible on the behaviors that you're expecting to see. Because we saw the iceberg. We don't see behaviors. We don't see behaviors, right? Good. So if I go to the next one, and this is the final, I think we're still on a good time. It's my final takeaways. It's the system is not just the tools. The system is going to be, I would say, a tool for cultural change, where it's going to be one purpose, one culture, one system in order to bring one result. And this is a full, I would say, full framework where you have your tools, you will have the framework, which is the system, you will have your people, okay, because you're developing the people that will be coached by the leadership in order to get the behaviors that you want, okay? And this is pretty much my last slide. I will pass the word to Skylar. I really appreciate you guys join us, okay? This is a topic that I get super passionate about it, okay? And if you see me on the floor, I live it second by second. So thank you for joining us. Skylar, I pass the word to you.
Thank you so much, Sal, for your presentation. Your passion really shows, and that was really amazing. But now it's time to start our Q&A session. We already have some questions submitted, but as a reminder, if you haven't had the opportunity to submit your questions, please do so now using the Q&A box. If you're watching the webinar on replay, you can still submit your questions and our expert will get back to you. Awesome. Let's get started.
Yep.
First question from a viewer for Sal. When implementing a daily management system across an organization, who should be accountable for sustaining the system, and how do you audit its effectiveness over time?
I would say the accountability of the system is leadership, right? In order to drive it on a daily basis, right? Which will bring a standardization and to understand that you are executing it on a way that is being repeated day by day, and you're getting maturity and you're improving it. Again, is leadership. And what I mean leadership is going to the top of the factory down to the lowest level on tier 1. Okay, we have team leaders, we have area managers, you have supervisors, and you have your leader, right? Then there is a second part of the question, which I think is key, is the audit. Because as a part of the leadership role, we talk about the I do, we do, you do, okay? But definitely, as soon as you have the you do, and you're making the team accountable, then is when you get into the audit phase. And the audit is key. So I see the question, I recognize the person, okay, Luis Zipos. Thank you, Luis. Okay, thank you for joining us today. And it's key, the audit system. So just to reinforce, it's the leadership team across all organizations is responsible and accountable that is going to be sustained. And the audit needs to be done after the third step, and needs to be done as well as a multi-layer audit by the leadership team, based on my experience.
Thanks, Sal. Next question. In your experience, how will leader standard work connect with daily management system execution?
Well, there is two parts of this, because I was mentioning leadership standard work on one of my slides. And I was talking about the standard work for the tier meetings, okay, which it can be considered a small section of the standard work. So how do I see connect? 100% is connected. One is because as a part of the full shift leader standard work, your tier, depending on the level that you belong, your tier needs to be there as a part of your standard work for the day, right? Then inside of that section, then you have the standard work for the tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, depending on which one you leave, right? And then that standard work is key for me, because that will help you to expedite the maturity of the process, okay, of the system, excuse me, and that will help you as well to standardize it, and get it mature. And so I think as a wrap up is 100% connected for the full shift standard work, for the leadership standard work, and 100% connected as that little piece that the leadership needs to be doing as the tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3.
That's great. Do you have a monthly or quarterly reward system for outstanding employees or majority wins?
The answer is yes, but not as outstanding employees, because the efforts that we do as a part of the daily management system are being done as a team, right? So there is team members that is hitting the targets for the day, right? Sometimes we have an organization where you have manufacturing cells by process, or manufacturing cells, value stream cells that are aligned to one specific product. So for those, all the activity is being done as a team. So the answer is yes, right? So as a part of the maturity, that's what I recommend, that you have a recognition program, okay? Defined by KPIs, depending on the ones that you're setting up, okay? And again, it's defining on where you are, right? Because when you are going out of the continuous improvement phase, your KPIs, in order to recognize the sales, they need to be potentially not just accomplishing the day, accomplishing the month. Now it's, are we improving enough? Are we taking enough waste, right? So the answer is definitely yes, but not at the individual level. I recommend it to do it at the team level.
Awesome. Next question. If a day was not a win, which tier is responsible for the recovery plan?
If it is not responsible, if the day was not a win, the lowest level of the organization, let's say, the lowest level of the organization should be responsible to do that recovery. It can go down to the tier 1, but if they need support in order to be able to close that gap, they will go into the next level. They will go to the next level. They need to be escalating support in order to be able to hit it. But the lowest level of the organization that can attack that recovery plan, that should be the level that should be responsible of.
Next question right here. Does issue escalation flow typically resolve at a site in one day?
Not always. Not always. But from my point of view, that's where you have to have a containment versus corrective action, right? As long as you have the escalation action defined, captured, okay, with an owner, with a date, and that can be, I would say, split it between containment in order to support your customer needs, but then your corrective action is in parallel as well, defined with an owner. For me, that's more than enough with a proper sense of urgency of that organization. Okay, but not always all the escalations are being solved on a day. Which is key is whoever is scaling an activity or support through the tier system, that level, they need to receive feedback. So they know that someone in tier 3 is working on it, someone in tier 2 is working on it, and by when they're going to get an update. That's what is key, but not always all the escalations are solved on a day. Feedback, I recommend to give feedback that same day.
And how much time are you spending creating these daily boards?
Not much, honestly. The daily boards, they need to be, I recommend it at initial state to do it manually, right? And the reason is because the data, I mean, in most of the cases, the data is available. The thing is, we are not using the information and data properly. So if you're investing too much time creating updating boards, something is wrong in the system. Something is wrong on the way that we are applying the system. It should be data that is available, okay? We should be defining exactly who captures, who is going to get it ready, right? And who is going to be analyzing it, okay? That's not much time needs to be spent updating boards.
Great. And based on your examples, which assessment tools do you use to identify an organization's maturity stage?
Honestly, I mean, there are different tools, okay? I don't have one, honestly, like that is available for everyone. I think depending on the organization, we have lean assessments, okay? Or we have a standard factory assessment. The one that potentially I would recommend, it's the one that is being shared and is public by Collins Aerospace, which is a standard factory. The standard factory assessment was coming from United Technologies Aerospace. It's public. There is a book, okay, about it, okay, and you can use it in order to really assess it deeply, right? Okay, from a point of view, in order to understand if you're stable or not, it's just a matter of, are you repeatable every day, even if you are inefficient, right? Okay, so you may not need like a full assessment in order to understand that you are not ready to start continuous improvement. It's are you repeating? Are you predictable based on your operational targets? Not efficient because you may need to add your quality loss. You may need to add your downtime loss. So you're not efficient, but if you're planning 10 widgets at the end of the line, good parts, okay, you're getting 10. You may be losing 3, you know, but that for me, I consider that is still on this step. Sorry, I consider that ready for continuous improvement. So to answer the question, the only one that I may recommend is for United Technologies, is a standard factory. That's the book. Is super deep, super complete in order to really understand where you are.
Thanks, Sal. Next question. How significantly have you seen this approach impact cost reduction?
I would say 100%. I mean, I can tell you that I have examples where as soon as you start deploying these and the team members, they really understand what is my target for the day. I can tell you I have seen examples that they do improve efficiency from 35%. And I can tell you I have a clear example that the team did improve it on 85%. And that will be pretty much directly impacting your margins, right? And your labor utilization, right? And your machine utilization and your OEE. So I can tell you immediately. Now, as a comment, those kind of improvements, I don't consider them continuous improvement. They are just part of the stabilization phase, right? As soon as we stabilize that, that's the true throughput, okay, from the current process. Now I'm ready to start doing continuous improvement. Okay, that's my point of view, right? I know that some of the subject matter experts about this, they already consider them continuous improvement, but on my side, from my point of view, I still don't consider that because I've not done any waste elimination. The only thing that I did is understand really what is my targets for the day based on my standard times, and then measuring them and following them and planning properly, okay? So the answer is yes, okay? You will have great impact on cost reduction applying these concepts.
Wow. Real results. Last question here. Have you seen daily issues reporting actually translate to defect free?
Yes, the answer is yes. And it's because you will have the performance of the quality items visible. So you will be able to identify them immediately. Okay, identifying immediately, that will give you a chance to plan with that loss in order to hit your customer targets. Okay, you are not improving, but then you will start getting the proper data to do your Pareto first level, Pareto second level, understanding your trends, define your top 3 main defects, and work on them in order to go one by one and start eliminating them through a problem-solving methodology. It can be an A3 or AD. Okay, there are a few of them that you can apply depending on the complexity of the issue, but the answer is yes, because it's going to bring you the data available for you in order to create the proper analysis.
Great. Thank you so much, Sal. Thank you for everybody for your questions, and any questions we didn't get to will be followed up via email. Again, if you're watching on demand, you can feel free to ask some more questions, and Sal will get back to you. Before you go, if you guys can please just take a moment to fill out our exit survey. Your input provides us with valuable feedback that we'll use to make our webinars even better. Thank you again, Sal, and thank you to Elevaris Medical Devices for this really great webinar. If you want to watch it again, it'll be on demand. Thank you so much, Sal. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.